Hello, I'm Christopher Ulrich. I'm a candidate for Common Council in 2024, and I have with me today Tim Neubauer, who is one of the owners of the Corbett House. And today we're talking about some codes and permit issues in Oshkosh. Hi, Tim. Thank you for doing this blog.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I have a list. I just talked to Tim ahead of time. So we're going to go through a little bit of a list. Please tell anyone who is watching a little bit about your background professionally so they know you have an understanding of this.
Professionally, let's see. Well, right now I'm a realtor. We also own a Studio 708. As far as like background coming to construction, like it's what we did as kids. I mean, I was 12 years old, tearing out lath and plaster in my bedroom, on the roof, plucking nails out of the roof, got a penny a nail. I counted over 5,000 nails. I mean, we grew up always building, and I've always enjoyed building and making things. It's just something I've always been able to just look at something and figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you learn from your mistakes and you get better. And over the years, I've gotten better. I've made mistakes on this Corbett House, but I've fixed them and gotten better, and just always improving.
Excellent. That's a great mantra to have. Meliora, I believe that is in Latin. So, how long have you been working with the Corbett House in particular? When did you buy it, and how long has this been going on?
So I think we closed on it, is it October of 21?
Happy 2 years.
Yeah. So it's been a long process, but I mean, we're trying to do as much of this on our own as we can, as much as the city will let me. And yeah, I mean, just, with all those kids and a full-time job, we just do what we can when we can. Luckily, we have a lot of flexibility with our schedule, and my wife takes care of a lot to allow me to work more of a full-time position at that house.
Wonderful. Well, 2 years is a lot of time to accrue some opinions about codes and permits. So, how many issues do you think that you have had total on your time with the Corbett House?
A lot of my issues are based off of, and this is what drives me nuts, is because I don't live there, I can't pull my own permits. And my argument is, well, I'm going to live there. It's going to be my house. And two, me living there doesn't make me any more or less qualified to do the work. And that's been my biggest argument. We've come to an understanding of where they came up with some affidavits saying that I'm going to live there actually afterwards, and this won't be like a flip type thing.
Okay.
But that only allowed me to pull out building permits. They wouldn't go any farther as to let me pull out mechanicals of electric and plumbing.
Okay.
Which, as we know, plumbing and electric are huge expenses, and when we bought this house, we did not expense those in there. So we've been struggling a little bit when it comes to that, but we've been finding interesting ways to make it all work.
Well, that just makes the whole process take longer and cost more, right? And I think,
Absolutely.
You're being, in my opinion, you're being put up in a corner. And so you get these decisions where you have to either make the project longer or cut corners or do the work without a permit, right? Just kind of go around the situation, which that's not so good either, right? We want people to be doing it easily and within the confines.
Yeah. I mean, really, with having to jump through all these hoops, like right now, I've lost the battle on plumbing. So we're hiring a guy, Paul Wolf. He's been great, and he's helped me out over here on the Court Street one. But obviously, we had to make some sacrifices in the house in order to do this. Obviously, prices of everything have gone through the roof. So right now, we're sacrificing the third floor. We're giving up 3 bedrooms and a kid's playroom just so we can actually afford and move into this house. So right now, we'll finish the first 2 floors. Kids are just going to have to share bedrooms because there's 7 of them. And we're just going to basically get it to where it's livable, to where we can move in. Like, I'll finish trim, like all that little stuff while we live there, while we can recoup some money and make it happen.
Absolutely. Now, you talked about you've got a plumber that you're working with. Anecdotally, I think contractors think it's difficult to work in Oshkosh sometimes because of the regulations. Have you had that experience? Has it been hard to get other people to work on your particular project?
Well, not for me because I'm not looking for like general contractors,
Okay.
but it's it's a very, very common known issue in Oshkosh that as a realtor, we're always looking for a contractor to help with one of our sellers or our buyers get something done. You cannot find people to work in Oshkosh. They don't want to deal with the city, which I've lived here my whole life. I know exactly what they're talking about. And actually, our plumber, Paul, he actually used to be the plumbing inspector. There's a reason he doesn't work. There's a reason he doesn't work there anymore. I've heard lots of good stories, but now he's out on his own, and he just rather do that.
We all go through different jobs in our life, right? Personal.
Right. Yep.
There's always shifts. To be kind to the people at City Hall.
Yeah.
So what, you think there's any low-hanging fruit that, in your experience, man, if this one thing would be changed, this simple thing, X, Y, and Z would get better quicker for me?
I think a little leeway and common sense would make things a lot easier. Like right now, I had to give up on the plumbing thing, and now I'm waiting for availability for him. And right now at that house, I'm kind of stuck because most of the stuff I'm waiting for now revolves plumbing. So I can't do drywall. I can't get my rough-in inspections. I can't do anything. So I'm kind of at a stuck point right now. I've been doing little things, but right now we're just kind of waiting, and which really sucks when you're paying so much money per month for that house that you can't even live in. So
you're stuck in like an order of operations limbo.
Correct. I was hoping, I tried really hard to see if they would let me do drywall in like the bedrooms and the non plumbing areas. Actually, I forgot how it all went, but either way, they said no.
Okay.
One inspector thought, I don't see that being a problem, but then when it went to the top, no. Which I kind of get their point, but it's like, really, I don't feel like it's that much more work for them to keep track of. Okay, yes, your bedrooms are passed. You can drywall those while we wait on this other stuff. Like, to me, it's not a huge deal, but they won't bend it at all on that.
Some special case element of leeway is what we're advocating for here. Now, you're a realtor in more than just the Oshkosh market, right? Are there any examples from outside of Oshkosh, code or permitting wise, like with Appleton or Neenah, that works well for them that you think we could bring into our system?
I don't know the differences in code, but I do know that contractors actually like working in Appleton and Neenah way better. I don't know anything about Fond du Lac. I just know if they're bidding out jobs and they get a job, they're going to take those jobs outside of Oshkosh before they come here. And a lot of people just won't even take the bids here unless they live here and do most of their business here. So yeah, they're going to look elsewhere, most likely, is what I'm hearing and what I see when we try to search for somebody to help out one of our buyers or sellers.
Okay. Well, I know Mayor Woodford and Mayor Lang, and I can tell you, as part of my campaign, I'm going to meet with each of them and see from their understanding of their own local government what they have found as best practices that make the contractor so happy in that area that we could maybe bring in to Oshkosh. So I figured I would just talk with people like you if you had specific, requests ahead of time. But it's a process. The way I see it is it starts with a code audit. So that's, we got to start somewhere. That's what I'm trying to advocate for. You look at the codes on our city website, and the revision dates are kind of all over the place. I don't personally know the work that has gone into those, right? I don't know if there was any kind of unanimous third-party update. It doesn't seem that way. It's not from what I've been hearing, and I think that's the right place to start. There's got to be some fat to trim or things to just get us up to 2024 standards by that time, right? It almost seems like there's some sacred cows that are just old written laws that we probably need to update.
it needs to get a little more simplified and not so complicated. I mean, I feel like, and I mean, you live in Oshkosh, you'll see that there's a lot of like what you call like a money grab type stuff, like this permit to burn wood in your own yard that you pay taxes on. Like, come on. I mean, what's that permit really going to do other than give the city money, which I feel like they always are finding a way to grab more money out of you, one way or the other.
Yeah, and that's almost a double-edged sword, because some people want to say, well, if you get rid of all these permits, the city's not going to make money, and we got to get that money somewhere else. But then the other argument to that is, are people taking out the permits? Are they just ignoring it, right? And would the city make more money on taxable properties that were completed, or projects that were completed, if they were getting the permits easier to do the work? Right. So I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth just to state both cases.
Yep.
But it's so
Well,
interesting.
it's funny too is, I mean, you look at your college housing situation. I mean, you talk to anybody in Oshkosh and they have nothing nice to say about college housing and how they're all run down and not upkept.
Like
For me, I personally,
like you're discovering
own-
properties and things in the area, not the actual university. Okay.
I mean, we own a few rental properties, and I can understand why landlords don't want to update those properties. It's the city. Like if you start, let's say you want to do one thing, like for instance, when I had my general contracting license, I took on a porch build. I rebuilt this whole covered porch, came to get my final inspection. It was 2 different inspectors on 2 different times. They came and they wouldn't close out my inspection because they wanted something else fixed on the property that didn't pertain to my porch build. I didn't own this property, and I told them I was contracted to do this. You guys shouldn't be holding up my permit for something else that has nothing to do with it. So after they wouldn't do it, after talking to the owner, I ended up repairing what the inspectors wanted. Then I got another inspector to come do my final. They found something else that they wanted done before they would close out my permit, which, like I said, had nothing to do with my porch build. So those are some of the things that I've run into personally too, which I don't find right. And realistically, it should have no bearing on what I was hired for. That should go back to, okay, we'll send a letter to the owner. Hey, they should take care of these parts, hire another contractor to do the work.
But
It's
sign off on the
those
work
types
I've
of-
done. Yeah.
What's that?
Sign off on the work I've already done, right? Kind of gets back to your common sense leeway that you were advocating for.
Yeah. And like I said, it's just another example of how they make things more difficult than they need to be. It's just like they keep, kind of just jabbing that knife in you a little bit, like, it's the same thing with like the lead service line. I get why they want you to do it, but they will start fining you if you don't do it. And anybody who's found out the cost of getting that lead service line replaced, I mean, you're looking $5,000 to $12,000. There's a lot of homes around here where people are barely getting by, especially with the cost of living these days. All this cost of living's gone up, but our pay hasn't gone up to keep up with that. But yet we're supposed to drop, $5,000 to $12,000 on doing that, which to me is insane. And if you don't, here's a fine to add on to it. Yeah, that drives me nuts a little bit. So
important
I always
points to make. Yeah, I'm sure you're not the only person who's thinking about those or putting dollar values to the the next ticket item, like those lead services.
Yep. So I always educate my buyers when we look through homes. I say, check out to see what the service is, because I guarantee you're going to get a letter as soon as you buy it saying you need to repair that. And it's a cost that a lot of people don't think of, that they should at least be prepared for it later.
That's right. Be prepared with a good inspection. Any
Well,
closing
if you
thoughts?
can get an inspection.
Well, if you can, yeah, right. It takes a long time. Any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts are just, I would just like to see the city work with people a little bit more. Granted, my situation has gotten better. I actually had a meeting with Mark Roloff and Nicole, who is the head of the inspection department now, and she's done a really good job working with me and been very honest and given me extensions on deadlines and stuff like that. So I can't say all is bad, but there are certain people that, it feels like a personal, like out to get you type thing. There's a couple people that I just butt heads with, and it just feels like a very personal vendetta type thing. And I bet you any money you're going to find a lot of people that have similar stories, similar situations that you just butt heads and can't get along with some of those people down there.
Yeah, that's a situation no matter where you work. I think there's always going to be those conflicts, but I'm glad you ended on a positive note. I also like City Manager Roloff, and it's great to hear that Nicole is, working with you, and because we have good people who work at the city, and I think some updates in the future will help you and other people like you. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk with us, and we'll see what happens in the upcoming election.
Perfect. I'll be looking forward to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tim. You take care.
You too. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.